Hello, everyone. We will give it a couple of seconds to let some folks kind of sneak in here. See a couple of familiar folks here, which is always great to see. Um, awesome. I think we have a good kind of solid group to get us started. So while we let some folks kind of trickle in, I will get us started with some housekeeping administrative type items. My name is Allie McDevitt. I am the Director of Marketing here at Accelant. For those of you who may not be aware, we are an elite HubSpot solution partner, and our mission is pretty straightforward. We work with organizations to align their people, their processes, and technologies all within HubSpot so that we can really help them drive the most value, not just from HubSpot, but from their tech stacks holistically and the data that supports all of those technologies. So that's the mandatory tidbit about Accelant and who we are. Before I pass it over to Laura and Baris to get us started on the main event, which is the power of Oneflow and HubSpot, and the impacts that we have seen that have for clients as it pertains to sales efficiency specifically in regards to document and contract management, I will do a couple of administrative items. One, this session is being recorded, so expect the recording, the slides. We have a couple of sorry, we have a couple of other supporting resources that we'll be sending to you as well. So you'll have those in your inbox come the end of this presentation or come the end of the day. And then secondly, we do have the Q&A open. So our style is pretty fluid. You don't need to wait till the end to ask your questions. I will be assisting Laura and Baris in moderating those questions. So as they come into your mind, drop them in the Q&A and I will interject and get them answered for you. So we have a pretty solid group now. Baris, can I pass it over to you? Just a quick intro of yourself and then Oneflow. And then you can pass it over to Laura. And then Laura, you can take us away.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ali. Hi, everyone. My name is Baris. I've been at Oneflow for about 4 years. I primarily look after the UK and the US market. But again, Oneflow, just to kind of let everyone know, we're a digital contract management tool, a live document tool. And the whole idea is to integrate seamlessly with HubSpot. And that's what we're going to take you through today. But very short, I'm going to pass over to Laura.
Hey everybody, I'm Laura. I'm a market leader at Accelant. I work with some of you, and some of you I haven't met before. So I'm, the equivalent of an account strategist and a market leader on a different team if I don't work with you directly yet. But yeah, I am obsessed with Oneflow. This tool is totally king, as I continue to say, and I'm really excited to dive into some of the solutions it provides, as well as the demo and some case studies with you all today. Right. Okay. So let's dive in. So what we find, and I'm sure that a lot of you deal with these issues as well, is that there are some really big impacts and challenges that face every team running through a quoting, longer term sales cycle that go through proposal stages, whether it's part of your process to get those signed or just put them in front of the customer. Automating that process is something that everybody dreams about doing and knows that there's an easier way, but not everybody's quite doing it yet. Whether you're using a tool that does that part of the way, or you're still building them in Word documents, saving as a PDF, maybe even uploading to DocuSign, there's a lot of different variations of this process. But time and time again, we run into these handful of specific challenges. So we've got, operational inefficiencies. That has a lot to do with, back and forth with red lines or, multiple variations of a document floating around. One of the social posts I included about this webinar included a string of your document save, and it's like V2, part 2 with different people's initials. And, things just get really messy when they're being passed around teams internally and externally. Another challenge that we see regularly is a lack of visibility into what's actually going on in your quote. So how often are your customers actually looking at the quote? Have they forwarded it to other people? Are there comments and questions that could be tracked within the document as well? And then because of these, bumpy and challenges, then that's going to directly impact your revenue as well. So most sales teams know that time will kill deals and confusion will kill deals. So, being able to make this a lot more streamlined is definitely a need for a lot of people that are out there leveraging these quotes. So just diving in a little bit further to more specifics within these different buckets, this is what we tend to find, but then also with this integration between having this connected system and live document in Oneflow, pairing that up with HubSpot really solves. So of course, one of the biggest challenges is that manual processes slow teams down. So whether you're typing up the scope from scratch or you're trying to do pricing in one tool and then doing the calculations in another tool and then entering it manually into your Word document, however your flow is today, manual process slow you down. Everybody knows that. So there is a lot of opportunity for this automated contract creation through Oneflow. So whether that's leveraging templates and having data input directly into HubSpot flow through to the tool, or your products and line items tables showing up in that tool, there's a lot of automation that's possible between the two systems. Human error and rework kind of piggybacks on this as well. So, typos and forgetting a zero in the total, or miscalculating a specific line item or things like that. Being able to pull the accurate information directly from your HubSpot into your quote reduces the manual effort and therefore the human error and rework as well. So we'll get into how exactly that flows and why this is super impactful for a lot of teams. But being able to capture data in HubSpot and let it flow through to your contract is an incredible benefit of these two tools working together. The other problem as well is having outdated CRM systems after you've gotten your quote signed. So something that's incredibly cool about Oneflow is that there's a bi-directional sync of data, meaning that when you create your document, the data flows to the document in one way, but then your customer or your client has an opportunity to update their information after you've sent it to them. So whether it's collecting billing information, tweaking the name or the title, maybe you sent it as VP of marketing, but now that person's been promoted to CMO, you can capture their new title as they're signing it. And then you'll regularly have updated CRM records because of this bi-directional sync. So lack of data visibility is, of course, another really big bucket of this. So one of the challenges is that there's no single source of truth. So especially if you're pulling the process outside of HubSpot or outside of a connected system, then is the contract your source of truth when it comes to what you're selling with them, or is your CRM? So maybe you're really regimented about adding line items and defining exactly what's going to go into this quote in HubSpot, but then once you pull it out to Word, you're making adjustments, and then you're not having the time or remembering to go back and update your CRM. Working in those two different systems will, kind of break that source of truth down. Having multiple documents, that's kind of what I called that at the beginning as well. So whether you have, you're working out of a cloud-based system to both, to have multiple stakeholders internally working on the same document, or if you're literally passing around different documents with different versions, all of those different version histories are going to cause confusion and friction down the line. Let's see. So then there's also no visibility into actual contract stage or ownership. So building out this system, especially with Oneflow, you can build out a really regimented approval process if you need additional stakeholders to approve things along the way. You can also set your signing order. So if you need one stakeholder on your external side to sign first, and then then follow up and then have somebody on your side sign, there's all this, signing order and having a very clear understanding of where exactly the contract is and with who. So that way you can help push things forward in a much more tailored and personalized way. The other item too is limited audit trails. So obviously if it's outside of a system, if you're working in Word, there's no audit trail history. There's probably like a red line feature in Word, but you have to be passing that back and forth. Even if you're using an integrated system, then it will have some information, but not all, maybe views, but not opens and clicks and comments. Oneflow solves all of that. There's a full-blown audit trail of exactly all the things that have changed when people have viewed the document, when they've made updates, and then that visibility will really help to be able to see where there might be a bottleneck in the sales process on the internal or external side, so you can either follow up in a personalized way or knock down some of those bottlenecks as you continue to optimize your process. So all of these kind of bubble back up into this, impacts to your customer experience and ultimately revenue. So the biggest challenge is that deal cycles are slow because of all of this back and forth and lack of visibility and multiple variations. So, but through the automated creation and pre-filled information that you're collecting throughout the process in HubSpot, having that all flow over to your document is going to speed everything up while, so there's less manual effort and less updates to make throughout the way. Customers receive real-time updates and they can actually interact with the content in your Oneflow document. They can redline directly in there. They can make comments in line or on like a general chat kind of sidebar as well, which really improves the customer experience, leading to happier, longer-term customers. Because you can fully automate this process, it reduces the amount of missed renewals or upsell opportunities as well. When you can get something right out the door in either an automated or a much faster fashion, you are going to be able to capitalize on those opportunities and therefore drive additional revenue and find other opportunities to engage with your customers. And then also when it comes to compliance and security, if you're saving all of these different variations in various places on your desktop or in the cloud or wherever it is, these version controls, permission access, that else not only causes friction, but now you've got customer data floating around. So when you have it in one specific location that's is secure, that is going to be a huge impact to many people in this day and age of data security and access and permission controls as well.
Amazing.
Cool. Yeah.
Laura, before we pass it over, I'm just going to slow us down a little bit. Laura just walked us through a bunch of incredible kind of examples, and hopefully a lot of you could relate to some of those challenges or those pain points. These were pulled directly from real client experience and Laura's experience working with our clients within Oneflow and HubSpot over time. But I think the real thing to kind of get across here, and Laura, feel free to chime in, you have the direct experience here, is the impacts of really just efficiency and automation and what you've seen for a lot of your clients in terms of speeding up their processes, automating it, pulling a lot of those manual tasks off of the plate of sales teams. And that has driven a lot of just overall impacts to like their sales numbers and what have you, by making just a small change to their tech stack.
Yep, that's exactly
Amazing.
right. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So if anyone has any questions on any of those pain points, please jump in, throw them in the Q&A. But now I think, Baris, we'll pass it over to you because this is now the exciting bit, right? Now we get to actually kind of jump into the tool, get to peek behind the curtain and see how this all sort of comes together in HubSpot before we jump back into some real client examples.
Perfect. Amazing. Thank you so much for that, Laura. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually take you through the integration, and I'm going to obviously relate to a lot of what Laura has just discussed over the last 5 to 10 minutes. I'll start by sharing my screen, and I will take you straight into HubSpot. And just to confirm, Ali, Laura, you can see my screen, right?
Yep, looks good.
Perfect. Amazing. Now, before I do anything, I just want to let you know, with the Oneflow HubSpot integration, you can actually create a contract from the tickets, the contact, the company, and the deal page. We actually also work with workflows. So if you do need to send this from a custom object, or you need to automate any of the process depending on a certain trigger, that can also be done as well. As an example, it might be that once a deal stage hits a certain stage, that an NDA flies out automatically to your counterpart as well. And that can all be automated and tracked within HubSpot. But today I'm going to work off the deal page. And you can see on the company page, I've also got a contract here on the right-hand side. So this will give you a glimpse of what Oneflow actually shows you. And it goes as far as telling you if your counterpart has opened it, when it expires, when it was sent, and you obviously get a link to the contract. On the left-hand side here, I've got the street address, which is 655 The Avenue. Now, in the template I'm going to be using, I'm going to actually allow my counterpart, whose name is going to be Baris Smith for today, to actually engage and change their address to make sure that we get up-to-date information and that information flies back into HubSpot. As discussed, I'm going to move over to the deal, and today I'm going to work from the deal. And the reason why I'm doing that today is I've got a bunch of line items on the right-hand side, and I'm going to pull them over into a contract. Now, when I say contract, it just doesn't mean contract. It can be an MSA, an NDA, quote, proposal, completely up to you what you want to use Oneflow for, but we can accommodate for most document needs. Now on the left-hand side, I've also got the invoicing method and the invoicing address. Again, this is information I currently don't have. This is mandatory in my document that I'm going to be sending out. So my counterpart will have to fill this in before they can sign the document. The idea being is that comes back into HubSpot. When that comes in and the opportunity or the deal moves to close one, that flies over to the finance team. Everyone can get on with their job without having to kind of discuss internally before we do anything further. I've also got the stage of this deal, which is appointment schedule. Now, depending on the status of the contract, this will change as well. As an example, once I get this signed, the deal stage will move to close one automatically. And again, you can configure this to your liking, but the idea being is to make sure our pipe is updated as well. And you also see we've got an activity log here. The activity log will populate with all the changes within the contract. So in HubSpot, you can directly see what's been changed, by which party, and what values they were as well. But moving on, you've got the Oneflow widget on the right-hand side where you can actually create a document. Now, before doing so, I'm going to take you into Oneflow and quickly show you a quick glimpse of Oneflow and then show you the template I'm going to be using. Now, when you first log into Oneflow, this is what you obviously see. When you're using the HubSpot integration, you don't really need to log into Oneflow separately and use it from here, as you're going to be running it through what I'm going to be doing today. Left-hand side, you've got workspaces. Now, the idea behind workspaces is to get you properly organized. And the idea being is I've got UK sales here, which I'm going to travel through, but all my templates and documents related to UK sales will be in this one space. And again, the reason why we use workspaces is you can also deny certain users within your team access to this. As an example, if you had a HR workspace, you can actually deny some users from accessing that workspace. What we try and do here at Oneflow is keep everything under one roof, make sure you're organized, the right people have visibility on all of the contracts they should, and to ensure that you work efficiently as well. Quickly to mention, for security reasons, if you don't have access to this workspace in Oneflow, you won't be able to access it via HubSpot as well. But not to take you through all of this now, I'm quickly going to show you the template I'm going to be using. And this is the one I'm going to use via HubSpot now. And I just want to show you this because you can see it's blank and none of the fields or the information is populated. This is just a random example on how you can design one, but I've just kind of chopped and sprang in different sections within a template that you can actually integrate and use to HubSpot. The key here, or one of the keys here, especially when it comes to your quotes or pricing, I've got 2 product tables in here. And depending on the product I have in HubSpot, it will automatically merge into the right area for you. The idea being is you can sell different types of services, you might have different packages, and we can pull them into separate areas into product tables in Oneflow. But again, the idea why I'm showing this is to show that it's blank and I'm going to actually get this populated on a contract. So moving on, coming back to HubSpot, your usual way of working, your deal's ready to now send out a contract. I hit the create document button. Once I do this, I can then select my workspace, which is going to be UK sales. And then I can select which template I want to use. And it's going to be this one, which I just showed you. It's going off to Baris, and all I need to do at this point is hit the create document button. And what that will do is merge all the information related to this company, contact, deal, and get it onto that template form. Now, if this is ready and you don't need to make any further edits, you can directly send it through HubSpot. But if you want to continue working in Oneflow and maybe customize it, you can continue to do so as well. Now, moving on, we can all see now that we've got the information related to the company straight into this contract. Now, the idea with Oneflow is we're a dynamic tool, so similar to a Word doc in that sense, where if I want to make a customization, I can do so without having to leave the system. The idea being is the master template doesn't get affected, but you do have flexibility on a per contract basis. Again, just want to mention as well, this is depending on your user permissions. It might mean the case that some of your salespeople can do this, but some of them can't, and they might need an approver or someone from the legal team to be drafted in to make these changes. But moving on, I've got all of this information, and the idea with Oneflow is it's a live tool. So if I want to pull anything else from HubSpot to this, I can easily decide that, do you know what, I want the address to automatically populate next to the title as well. And now I've got the address of the company in there too. So very dynamic and can suit a lot of your customizations as well. I've got a few images in here, but moving on, really importantly, you can now see all of the line items in HubSpot have automatically merged into the right product areas in the Oneflow contract. And again, the idea being is we can pull this wherever you like. It's completely up to you, but just to make sure it's broken down, ready for your customer, and you can send this off straight away. Moving on, what Laura said earlier about reminders, we've also got durations within our contract. So this one's for a period of 12 months with a notice period of 3 months. Again, the idea being is it's fully customizable, but why we use this is, one, it sits in your Oneflow calendar. You receive notifications when these events take place, but HubSpot also displays this information as well. And you've got further options on the right-hand side as well, if you did want to change the type of duration in there. But moving on, more text. As I have permission, I might realize, you know, I don't need this for this client, and that can go. I've got the invoicing information, but as I was mentioning earlier, I don't have the invoice type, which is a drop-down, just to limit the options they have. And I don't have the address for invoice. Again, the idea being is these are mandatory fields, and once they fill them in, that flies straight back into HubSpot, making it easier for our finance team and making sure that once we execute this contract, we do it once and we do it properly. You can have attachments in your contracts, and the cool thing about Oneflow is if you're ever needing to collect any evidence or information, you can actually get your customer to attach a file as well. And that will make it a mandatory requirement. You might have a bit of description above, and that ensures that you maybe collect some evidence, maybe about their tax certificates or company registration numbers, and that can drop into the document as well. Moving on, some links, and then obviously a footer to finish off. So this is how the integration with HubSpot works. Now moving over to the right-hand side, usually I'll probably just save it and send it. But I've got a settings area where I can incorporate a welcome video as well. Now the idea behind the video is the video plays first when you send it to your counterpart. And this doesn't need to be something or something to do with your brand or a pre-made video. You can actually replace the video and record your screen. And you might want to deliver a personal message as well. Now, a lot of salespeople hesitate when they say, oh, we don't want to get on the camera, but it's not just to deliver a message. It might just be to say, look, if you get this signed today, we're going to start on Monday. This is what we're doing on Thursday. And just to make sure the experience and the journey of the customer is a good one as well. I'm not going to take you through the whole thing because I don't think I'm going to have enough time, but you also have a sign-in period here, which aligns with what you have in HubSpot. So this shows us that this has got 14 days after sending. And if this contract expires, again, I don't need to recreate a new one. I can just extend the duration and the counterpart will receive a notification telling them that it's ready to sign straight away. Fully customizable, it might be a certain amount of fixed days or it might not expire at all. But the idea also being is they receive automated reminders on the last 3 days and on the day to say it's going to expire. So again, I use it heavily myself and I would recommend to use it just to manage your contracts as well. Moving on, you've got an audit trail, which will capture everything. Again, I'm going to show you examples now of me capturing information and that information also syncing back into HubSpot as well. We've got a collaboration area, so we can have a conversation. If I put a comment or if the counterpart puts a comment, we will receive emails and we can address these straight away. Now, you've got several communication channels and what you see typically today is everyone sending messages from different channels. It's a 3-month sales cycle. By the end of it, you come to it and you don't know where you are. What was the last comment? The idea both being is 1, you collaborate in one space, so it's easy to track. And 2, you actually get them engaged in the contract to increase the likelihood of you getting this signed as well. Example of myself, whenever I send a proposal, I never email directly from my Gmail or I wouldn't send a WhatsApp. I will always make sure that I'm putting comments into the contract and getting them engaged in here as well. And the reason why I do it is Oneflow will track the amount of times your counterpart has opened it. So if I see I put a comment and they open it straight away, it gives me an idea that they're still interested and maybe I can push on with this deal as well. Just an example. But
Baris,
moving
what
on.
else I really like about that chat feature is that you can select whether it's internal or external like chat. So you can chat internally and that's never available to the person who's signing it. So you can ask your manager or whoever is approving the quote to, you can chat back and forth within this and it won't show it to the person who's going to sign it. Or you can label it as public, which is exactly what you're describing. So sending them updates and notifications and reminders and things like that from here will trigger that notification to the customer.
Absolutely. And the great thing about it is I've got an approver in here. And any kind of prior conversations you have with your team where you're collaborating internally to get this ready, none of them will be visible to your counterpart anyway. But like Laura said, if for some reason after you've sent the contract and the counterpart's now involved, if you still want to go back and ask a member of your team something, you can just switch the chat to internal to make sure it's kept internal. But moving on, this is me for the demo. My name is Patrick Harris here, and this is my counterpart, Baris Smith. Again, just want to show you none of this information is populated by myself manually. It all flies over from HubSpot. But the idea being is I've got an approver in here, and the good thing with approvers is they're invisible to counterparts, but it just means that I can't get this document signed or sent to the customer without my manager, Christopher, here giving the thumbs up. And we can collaborate, we can have a chat, we can get this ready. And once it's ready, Christopher can approve, and then it goes out to the customer. The idea behind this, again, is to make sure you don't have one central person trying to manage everything. Sales teams can get on with their contracts. They can have certain permissions, but they can still go through that fail-safe to make sure it's approved before it reaches the customer. There's so many different roles in Oneflow, but I'm not going to take you through to them today. Pretty much self-explanatory, and you can have different teams in there, maybe just a CC, so they receive a copy of the contract as well. I'm going to send this off to my counterpart, and then obviously I can select the message template, and it's really up to me if I want to customize this any further. The idea being is we can actually save ourselves time from typing this out over and over again. And off it now goes to the customer. What I'm going to do for you now is I'm going to show you what the counterpart, the customer, sees on their end. But before doing so, if I quickly take you back into HubSpot and give this page a little refresh, you can actually see a few things will change in here. It now shows me that the deal is changed to contract sent. It also shows me that it's a pending contract when it expires, because I had a signing period of 14 days, and when it was sent as well. It goes as far as telling you that your counterpart has not opened the document. But moving over, now I'm going to take you to what your counterpart will see in their contract. So they will receive a notification like this with your company name, the person at your company sending it, all your branding. I mean, these buttons can be customized with your colors and so on. And we can remove any kind of Oneflow labeling in there as well. But I'm now Baris Smith. I go to the document as the customer or the counterpart, and this is what I receive. Video plays first. You can put whatever you like in there, but most of the times I see people trying to engage and make sure that the customer knows exactly what's happening after it's been signed. But me being the customer as Baris Smith, let's say I try and sign this document. You can see it would deny him from doing so, and the reason is there's missing information. We're now collecting this information to make sure it syncs back into HubSpot. They save it, they can obviously now sign it. However, when looking at this, they can say to me, well, hold on a sec, my discounts are not there for my items. Can you add them, please? And the idea being is when they actually send this comment off, I receive a notification. I also receive one to say they have opened for the first time and the fact that they've made updates. And again, they can go up here and realize, well, my address is wrong as well. And they can change this for us without having to tell us themselves. And save this. Now, once Baris Smith has made that comment, I'm going to take you back to my site. And if I quickly go back into it, I'm Patrick Harris again now. I can see in the audit trail everything Baris Smith has done. The fact that he's changed his company name, the fact that he's put his invoice and address to these details as well. If Baris Smith doesn't make payment or Baris Smith says, hey, it's gone to the wrong place, we can always come back to this audit trail and it will show us clearly who's responsible for what values that have been inputted into this document. Good thing about this is this also syncs back into HubSpot as well. In the comments area, I can see that Baris Smith said his discounts are not there. Now, rather than having to start the whole document again, going back to HubSpot, duplicating the data again, getting the document ready and sending it out for version 10, 9, 11, 12, I can actually just go in here and change the units to 10 of each, and then maybe apply a discount on each product as well, as agreed. I'm just making stuff up for the demo, but again, depending on your conversation, I can save it and just reply and say, hey, ready to sign. This happens to me quite often. Not that I provide discounts, but I get some of the details wrong. And when that does happen, I can actually keep the customer on the line and actually tell them, do you know what, I'll get it ready for you now. And let's get this signed on the spot. So I'm going to take you back to Baris Smith's side. And when I take you back to Baris Smith's side, again, when he receives the emails, he goes into this. He can also see that I've changed the products. He can see my comment. And when he goes down, he sees the changes live. He's really happy. He moves forward and signs the document. There's an attachment in there, so that needs to be toggled on. And they can now draw their signature and sign it. Just to mention, it doesn't need to be a draw. They can type it. They can click to sign. There's various different signature methods on Oneflow. They're all legally binding, and you can independently verify these away from Oneflow as well. Once Baris Smith has signed, I'm going to countersign this, again, receiving the notifications. And if I show you now, the good thing about Oneflow, whether they've signed or not, you get to see this key information as well. Again, as a salesperson, I'd heavily rely and follow this just to see the intent and the signals from my counterpart as well. I'm signing to, and now this contract is signed. You don't all have to sign it. It might just be a counterpart signing. Sometimes proposals aren't signed. Oneflow can accommodate for them use cases as well. What's really important here is once a contract is signed by all parties, you can't make any further changes, and you can obviously download a PDF for both me and for the customer as well. Now, if we look at this, you can see we can't change any of the items, and this is now a locked, sealed document. So that's the kind of integration starting from HubSpot, sending out a document, collaborating, making changes, and then obviously getting this document executed. What I'm going to show you now is what happens to these changes back into HubSpot. So if we remember here, we've got this address that's been changed. We've got these items here that's been changed. And we also collected information from our counterpart down here.
This is my favorite part. This is like magic.
Yeah. Now, if we go back into HubSpot, we can see a few things have changed. We now see the deal stage has moved to closed one automatically for us. We can now see we've collected the invoicing method and the invoicing address as submitted by Baris down here. And that's all within our HubSpot environment. We can also see the contract signed, how many times it's been engaged and opened, and when it also renews, what Laura was saying earlier on. So again, you can set up workflows that once the renewal is done, it might fire out a new contract. But the idea being is rather than going to external systems or going for a SharePoint and trying to find these contracts, you have all the information where you should have it, which is your CRM system. Really importantly, we sent out a document with items, products. The good thing is now it's increased to 10 of each, and my discounts have been applied as well. So there's no need for a rep to come back into HubSpot, merge the data, or even make the error like Laura said, forgetting an extra zero or adding too much on there. The contract speaks to HubSpot itself. There's nothing further for you to do at this point as well. And you got your activity log here. The good thing is it actually tracks what's happening within that contract as well. Just to go to some of the things here, it shows that these two line items were changed from 5 units to 10 units. It also shows who's actually changed it by Patrick Harris, which was myself, within the contract as well. And one example for your counterpart, it also shows that Barry Smith updated his address. So now we can see that his address has changed from 655 to 734, the high road. If we go to the company level, we can now also see that his address has been changed in there as well. Again, this was optional. Sometimes you do want your counterparts to engage. Because it was personal information, I did allow Barry Smith to engage in this area just to make sure we have up-to-date information within our CRM as well. And that's how the kind of integration with HubSpot works. The only other thing I want to show you on this page here is I've also got a PDF of the contract downloaded within my deal as well. If I click on it, it's the same one that we just signed with Barry Smith. And now we've got it in here as well. So if any other team member that doesn't have access to Oneflow or anyone else that wants to see it, they have it within the deal, which they might decide to take elsewhere as well. That's the integration with HubSpot and Oneflow. Laura, I did have examples where conditional logic can apply, but really depends if I've got enough time to show that as well. I can't really see any of the questions, but more down to you, I'd say here.
Yeah, I think it's just really important. For me, whenever I kind of jump into Oneflow, I see what the impact is here. There are two zones that really stand out to me, and I think Baris, you touched on both of them. One, it's the bi-directional sync. So the fact that all of this data is moving so freely between the two systems is so impactful for a lot of our clients. And then the second thing that you touched on is depending on how your team works and the processes that you have, built within your sales teams, a lot of your folks can keep this process really within HubSpot. So Baris jumped in and showed you behind the curtains of Oneflow itself. But I think a big power move here is being able to keep your sales teams and a lot of these folks directly within HubSpot. All of this data is flowing fluidly back and forth. And that drives a lot of efficiency impacts for how your team works day to day in the system. Laura, anything you would add to that?
Not particularly until we get into the case studies specifically, because that's when I like to kind of show off some of the magic that real customers are using between these systems too.
Perfect. Yeah, you jump on in. I think
Okay.
this is also like the big exciting part.
Great. Okay, cool. So I have 4 different real use cases we're going to go through. They're all really different, which I think shows also the flexibility of this solution. So one of our financial services companies are a really heavy user of HubSpot and Oneflow. So one of their challenges was that they had email-based approval process. They were kind of like Baris was saying, there was Teams, there was email, there was in person when they were in the office together. Lots of variations floating around, and approval processes were really messy at first. Multiple teams need to be able to collaborate as well. So in this one, the person who's creating the document is also collaborating with their manager directly on every single engagement letter that they were putting together. But now Oneflow has made that collaboration really, really easy. There were lots of version drifts. People were using various different templates. One of the biggest things about this company in particular was there was a big acquisition. So a lot of different companies came together and rebranded as one unified company. So each of the different departments and teams were using their own process from their legacy company. So one of our biggest initiatives was to bring that all together into one freshly branded singular kind of template as well. So what they really love to use now is that they are actually collecting a lot of the information for their contracts throughout the process. We're using playbooks at each different stage of the sales process to start collecting the information that cross-functionally people need, but that will ultimately flow into the contract itself, or what they're calling an engagement letter. So all of that information flows in. They're able to collaborate with their manager and then get a final approval from the CEO before it gets sent out to their customer. Those are the approval flows as well. And then we're using a lot of dynamic templates in there as well. So we're pulling in a variety of different merge fields, and we're defining the scope and approach into the document. That's all flowing right in. We're typing that up in HubSpot and bringing that into Oneflow. The service line items on an hourly basis are all flowing in as well. It's really pretty cool to watch this all have come together. So what this is turned into is a faster and much more consistent process for both the actual users and the teams that are driving these deals, but also for the customers. Now they know what to expect. Now they've been trained on how to collaborate with their customer success lead on their documents. Like they know how to comment and redline and all of those things as well. So that's a huge impact for them. Operational bottlenecks have gone down too. So because you're not chasing people down via email and Teams waiting for somebody to reply, particularly internally, we're able to just collaborate right in the tool, and you can see all of that in the audit trail as well. So, this unified history and making sure just all of your ducks are in a row before it actually goes to the customer and it's been really well finalized is great. And then, capturing that PDF and making that available for the rest of the team is really an impact for them too. So again, just kind of high level, we're collecting that information throughout the sales process. We're documenting all of that into HubSpot, and then that's all flowing through to Oneflow. And then there's approval processes and an audit trail throughout. Okay, we also have this education client as well. They are, it's the administration office, sorry, like the, now I'm blanking on the word. What? Admissions, thank you. The admissions office at a private school. So this is kind of an interesting data architecture that I'm not going to get too into, but we essentially have parents are coming in as contacts into HubSpot, and then each child is a deal, essentially. So we're sending out contracts to the parents that say, these are all the rules and regulations and fee structures and all of those different items that would come along with an admissions contract. We're sending those out to the parents and continuing to update the child information based on that actual contract. Of course, because we're dealing with information about children, this is a very sensitive data kind of environment here. Oneflow has that kind of capabilities to maintain that kind of level of security. And particularly, they are capturing photos of the child's passport in their document. They need to be able to do that for their admissions process, and they're capturing that in that secured environment. While we, Baris showed that you can download the PDF of contacts the PDF of the contract to HubSpot. In this case, we're actually going to be pushing the contract directly into their secure environment on the admissions side as well. So that way that admissions team has access to the secured information that they need to. So it's pretty great that HubSpot can handle secure information. Oneflow can also do that too. So this is kind of a cool use case for that. This team, it also has a lot of different types of documents, and the fact that you can manage all these different documents and different versions of templates in one platform, I think is also a really big impact to this team. That also has to do with like the role-based access. So, some people have access to certain templates, but not other ones through those different workspace. And we're really automating a lot of those manual steps that they've been doing in the past.
Yeah, one of the main issues they had previously was they were sending parents these forms. Parents will fill in information, but because they didn't have the data syncing back into their CRM, so they'll send out another form and it will be repetitively asking the same information. And the parents will now call into the office and say, "Why have you asked me 4 or 5 times for the same information?" But the group couldn't actually turn around and say, "We just don't have a way of storing it," or "The templates are fixed and rigid, and that's why we have to send it." So as soon as they took Oneflow, once they captured the information once and they send out the next form, because that lives in HubSpot anyway already, that's automatically populated for the parent, which the parents found was a great experience. And
Yes.
We've had a lot of good feedback on that area, especially.
Yep. As a parent who recently changed daycares for my 2 kids, that is a very painful process. If I had to fill out the exact same information about emergency contact information one more time, I felt like I was going to scream. I had to fill it out in because it was all literally paperwork. I had to fill it out in probably 6 or 7 different places for both of my kids. And all of that information is exactly the same. If they had a system set up like this, I would enter it once, it would be there, and it would just show up across. So even if I had to sign a bunch of different documents with the same information, at least I don't have to enter it over and over and over again. Yeah. All right, I'm going to move on to the next one. So we also have an environmental services client. This one's really cool because they are creating proposals for their customers of, the scope of work that they're going to go out and do on site. And what they've been dealing with is they've had, collecting the billing information is one of the things that was kind of floating around out there as a challenge that they were trying to keep consistent, especially across different jobs. They were collecting this every time. They were sometimes collecting, credit card information one time, but dealing with POs on another time. So what we've done with this one is really cool. We've kept the templates very, very simple. We've got the line items flowing and the other additional on-site job details flowing from the deal into Oneflow. But where the magic really takes hold in this particular one is we are capturing the billing information. We're asking for it ahead of time. So if that information doesn't already exist in HubSpot, we're having the contact fill that out in the contract. Just like how Baris showed, once you save and sign it, that information is then stamped back on the deal. We have that information then also carrying over to the company. So that way, every other time we have that contact or that company receiving another contract, then that data is pre-populated. So that way they can just verify the information and only update as needed rather than filling out the exact same information every single time, or that the back office team is worried that, after 2 or 3 years that information is now stale or inaccurate. So every single time they send out a proposal to the same company, they've got that information in there for them to verify. The other piece of magic that I've built into this particular one is that we're capturing the invoicing email address. And what we're doing in this case is once they fill that out, if that person exists in HubSpot, we're actually going to grab that contact record and making sure that it's associated to the company with the correct billing contact association label. If that person doesn't exist, we're creating that contact and adding them to that company with the correct label. So, this is exactly why working with a partner for HubSpot and Oneflow, you can make these kinds of magic happen in the background to be able to, leverage some further automation throughout your system to really make your life a lot easier. Just make sure I'm not missing anything else in there, but that's really the biggest piece of this one is being able to leverage that bi-directional sync when it comes to the billing contact. I love this one. And then finally, this use case is a little bit more custom. So we brought in Oneflow because the default HubSpot quotes and proposals just didn't meet this client's need. The biggest piece of that was there's no way to, excuse me. There's no way to do a bill to and a ship to in a default HubSpot quote. You'd have to do a lot of customization on the back end in the CMS to be able to stamp that on there. So we engaged with Oneflow to get that kind of information flowing as well. So this one's really cool. So we've built out an order form essentially instead of a proposal. So in this one, we had to really manipulate the template in Oneflow to look exactly like they have it on a Word document, but we have the ship to and the bill to information either flowing to the Oneflow contract so that they can get verified or asking for that information if it's going to be different or if the sales rep hasn't collected that information yet. Then we have like our ship and scheduling, our shipping schedule and our payment schedules are all built into that as well. So in this particular case, this was, even though their use case is straightforward and relatively simple, the HubSpot default quotes that exist didn't meet their requirements. So we brought in this third-party tool to really fully automate that.
Yeah. One other thing I'll add here is when we were speaking to them, what they mentioned is just about when they're about to sign the document, they always get last-minute changes. And what it was is that really delayed their process and led to a lot of momentum being lost on some of the deals. So when we had these line items merging into specific product tables, in any case, if any of the products needed to change or they needed to add more, they can easily go back into HubSpot, add another item, and it will populate into the right area, whether it was a one-time fee or a subscription. It merges in there. It takes around 5 seconds. They can get it signed there and then. So we actually assessed how quick it took for us to do it with Oneflow and how quick it usually takes for them to do it in their old ways. It took them around 30 to 35 minutes to regenerate the same short document, and it took us around 9 seconds to make the change with Oneflow. So then when they saw the difference, they were like, all right, this is a no-brainer, like we like to say in the UK. And then that's what kind of made them go ahead with the Oneflow platform. Back to you, Laura.
Yeah. Whoops. End of slideshow. There we go. Okay.
Amazing. So I'll give it a last call for questions. If anyone has anything that they want to throw into the Q&A, we'll bring it back over to Laura and Baris. In the meantime, like I said, I just round this out at the other end. This session has been recorded, so you'll get this in your inbox once we have a chance to, turn house around, flip this webinar, you'll get it in your inbox very, very shortly. I love wrapping up with the client stories. I can see it. Laura lights up whenever she talks about her client work. She gets very excited, and she gets very excited about Oneflow. We've had a lot of experiences with clients finding some real solutions and making HubSpot really work for them in the most impactful way for their business. And I give all that credit in the world to Laura and to Baris and for finding really unique solutions that meet our clients where they're at. So thank you all for joining us. If you do end up having any future questions down the line, for any of you that currently work with us, just reach out to your account strategist or your market leader. Our whole team is very familiar with Oneflow and this tool. They all work with it in some variation with some of their clients. So just give them a shout. And if you don't, just feel free to reach out to us in any way that you see fit. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and we will talk to you all shortly. All right. Bye.
See ya.